Welcome back to Profi Plays. Uh, I'm Profi, and we're tuning in here for the story of Mies Kinson. We are still in Act 1. We are now going to be doing scene 9. When we last left Mies and his friend Mara, we know that they were in the midst of traveling, right, from panel goals where they had a very kind of short stopover, didn't really have a whole lot going on there. They are now traveling to Piathos, which is where they have identified, or at least have been told, that there is a rather significant rogue AI here that we know is going to be causing problems. We don't know exactly how far things have gone. Right, so first thing we need to do, we need to a couple rolls for potential random encounters before we arrive at Piathos. So first, remember that just the way this works, if I happen to roll, I'm going to say a 6, then we have a random space encounter, none there. So this is as we're leaving Channel Goals, then we spend a week uh, in jump space to get to Piathos, and nothing there. Okay, all right, so we arrive at Piathos. All we know about Piathos, just kind of zooming in here, Piathos is the sub-sector capital. It has slightly less than Earth level gravity, about zero point 0.7 Gs. The atmosphere is thin but breathable without any kind of, like, you don't need any kind of breathing apparatus or anything like that. 40% of the surface is covered in water, right? So that makes it, reasonable as far as that goes. Okay. The population is about 1 billion people. It's governed by a non charismatic leader who oversees a very high level of law, which means that there is basically police presence everywhere. Like anytime police might possibly show up, they will show up. The tech level here is definitely on the high side. You can see it's a B tech level, which would translate kind of as a level 12. Level 10 or so is where you have enough technology. I forget if it's 10 or 11, but it's right around there that you have enough technology to actually produce jump drives there locally on your planet. Here we're a little beyond that, right? So we can definitely produce, some higher tech stuff. Not quite as high tech as channel goals. Channel goals, we figured out there must have been some kind of like mineral or something there that made that a pretty good place for, yeah, high tech kind of construction. But nonetheless, the ethos is also fairly advanced. In terms of kinds of tags that we get for the system, the big thing about it is that it's high population and it's also the capital. That's about it. So, and with this high population, it's going to be somewhat balanced. So it's not a super agricultural planet, but it's also not agricultural. Similarly with industry, right? So there's a mix here, and that's what you'd expect. There are 1 billion people living on this planet. They're going to do a variety of things. All right. So that is where we are headed, and we are on this. I believe I said it was a merchant vessel. Left Tentacles, and I was making that last jump to get to Piathos. At this point, we are a while after we would have left Hadarana. So Hadarana is down here in 710, right? So we traveled from Hadarana to Mentorok, Tentacles, now to Piathos. Takes about a week to make each jump, and then also about a week on each planet. So we're talking about one, two, three, four, five. So we're a little bit more than a month after we got the news that we should come to Piathos because there were problems here. All right. So having kind of laid out all of that groundwork, let's go ahead and figure out what we're going to be doing here. So we are still in Act 1, so we're going to roll for an event scene. So I'm going to come over here and we're going to roll 2d6, but this is all just for inspiration. So we got a 4. So 4 for event scenes. The PCs are going to run into trouble. Well, I certainly hope so. Otherwise, it's going to be a far less interesting scene. All right, so PCs run into trouble is our scene. And then just other pieces of inspiration. So that's our event that could potentially happen. We also have action, thing, plot device, opposition, and location are all things that I'm going to roll. Again, I'm going to roll one for each. We may or may not use these. This is definitely something where, like, as the story progresses, I find that I rely significantly less on the random charts over time. Okay, so it looks like I have right here, this is the plot device table, I believe. Yes, it is sci-fi plot devices. We're going to roll my D1000 because it's a D1000 table. Oh, I'm going to get all my dice there. There we are. Roll them. What have we got? We've got, well, it's kind of leaning, but looks like 211. So yeah, we'll go with 211. So we'll call that. So disgraced is our device. It's telling us a character or entire family is publicly disgraced by some news or information. Then we'll turn back a couple pages here. This is going to be, I believe this looks like a thing. Yeah, so the things chart, again, it's a D1000. Roll that one. We've got 555. Oh, that was, it's not very often you get that. All right, 555. The newborn. Oh, so newborn, disgraced, and then our action, again, D1000. I want to give a little bit more space here between them because okay, no, click off of them. There we go. They were just kind of getting too cramped together. Okay, 832. 832 for our action. Scan. We need opposition and location still. So turning back a page, it's like there's our locations chart. Again, a D1000. 051. 051 Badlands. And then finally, flip back a few more pages to get to our opposition chart, which is a D100 table. So I'm just going to roll my first two of these dice. And we've got 53. 53 being organized crime or social pressure or custom. So organized crime, and the way that this works in the, so what I'm using here is the Covetous Poets Solo GM Guide or something along those adventure creator and solo GM guidebook. I forget exactly the title. Covetous Poet is what I got. I got this from Drive Through RPG when it went on sale. Even when it's not on sale, it's like $10 for the PDF. Uh, and like what my goal is eventually to do a review of this particular product, but some of the charts will do this kind of thing where they give you the choice, right? And they're really there. It's you want to choose whatever matches your storyline the best. So in this case, organized crime or societal pressure or custom. Okay. All right. So we've got a few elements here we can potentially use. We will see what ends up happening. So we are currently right in space upon our merchant aboard our merchant vessel. I want to remind us here again, this was something that I had kind of lost sight of, but I want to go back to it. Right. Right. So this is what we were looking at in terms of our plot, our background. Right. So one thing that we figured out as I put this all together and I made the story is that there's an AI system designed by pirates. That is why we started where we did, because that is where the AI system was developed. But the AI system immediately got out of hand, ended up disabling the pirates, so they weren't nearly as powerful there where we started as they normally would be, right? And then the AI system was designed, right, to get itself to Piathos, where we are now, and to disable or destroy, right, the starbase here. The idea, of course, being that this is going to be a pretty big blow, right, that will then allow the pirates to have a bit more space while the Navy and the like are having to deal with what's happening here at Piathos. So that was the plan. And we already know that things are not going according to plan because this AI system already hurt the pirates that made it, right? So this is definitely the dog biting the hand that feeds it or what have you. But what we don't know at this point, we do know that the scouts, which was who Mies used to work for, are aware of this AI system going out of sync or whatever is that it's creating problems at the very least. So things are at least that bad. The scouts are also aware that this is not really in their purview, so instead they and it's not obvious whose purview this would fall under apart from the local authorities under this non-charismatic leader. We don't have a name for him him or her, I don't know. At this point, we'll deal with that if it comes to it. Right, so we don't know that. Uh, we do know though that there's at least it's causing enough problems, or at least has been detected, so that the scouts were aware of it, so they could call for help. The call for help has to have been issued like 3 months ago at this point because of the travel time. Because remember, one of the things about this system, which it inherits from Traveler, the old sci-fi game, is that you cannot have messages traveling faster than people. Right? So a lot of the ships that travel between systems are effectively carrying mail from one system to another. Okay. So that means, as long as it took us to get there is how long it took the message to get to us. Right? So we're talking whatever the system is, people were aware of it about 3 months ago at this point. So the question is how it has progressed in that time, because as far as I know, we haven't really gotten any news about it since then. So let's go ahead and actually, we're going to have to try to establish that first. Kind of how bad are things here? So I'm imagining now, let's set the scene. Mese and Mara are on the ship. We're going to say that they are located near some kind of portal where they can see the system as we come out of jump space. Now you have to come out of jump space a ways, right, from wherever the planet is. This planet isn't huge, but nonetheless, you're going to be several hours out. You're going to be traveling through normal space to get there. We're probably going to be passing a gas giant here. We also know that there is some kind of planetoid asteroid belt or something there that would be mineable. Given the high population here, there probably are mining operations at work. We haven't run across anybody though, because we rolled, there's no random encounter. That in some ways is kind of strange. This is this is the capital, right, of the subsector, and yet between the jump point and coming to the capital, we're not running into anything. One would expect there would at least be ships like refueling at the gas giant because you can kind of pick up some of the hydrogen from the atmosphere there, right? Or that we would hit, say, mining vessels or some kind of local, uh, something that isn't interstellar, but that would operate within the system. We didn't. We had no random encounters at all. So what I want to know is this suggestive of there being some kind of issue here? So I think so with this is a level A. Um, it's a level A station, which means it probably is going to be advanced enough that it will have kind of high level and a low level station. So you have kind of the station that is out effectively in orbit, and I'm going to say I'm just trying to imagine stuff in my head. I like imagining this as being connected through a space elevator to the ground level. And you have to pause for a second. All right. So the distraction there is one of my kids came in, and then we had all kinds of weird stuff happening with my wife's phone. It's I guess basically my wife needs a new phone, but they're on back order. So it like called somebody who wasn't supposed to. It was weird stuff. Anyway, so I need to get back in the zone here. All right. Yeah, no time passed for you, but that was like 10 minutes of my life, or of weird stuff happening that definitely broke my concentration. So as I was saying, the way that I imagine this being arranged, so we have kind of the upper part of the station, the lower part of the station connected by a space elevator, connecting, that would naturally connect the two. Okay. And I have to pause because I have another kid out here. I just said to my wife, I don't know whether it's like, I don't think it's a full moon, but like, This is twice now that I've had to pause this recording because kids came in, where they should be asleep and normally would be at this point in time, but oh well. Anyway, we need to push on. Okay, so at this point, we know that this is a high traffic area. There's nobody here, at least not that we have run into through some kind of random event. So I want to, um, I'm going to roll here on our, where's our oracles? There's our general answer oracle or yes no table. I want to find out. So we didn't have any random encounters, but like, is it actually like weirdly quiet? That's what I want to know. Okay. I'm gonna say this is likely, so it's like a 75% chance. So if I roll 75 or less, yes, it's weirdly quiet. Yeah, it's 65. So yeah, it is weirdly quiet then. Okay. All right. I'm wondering, okay, is the station intact? I think it's very likely, actually extremely likely, the station is intact. It'd be weird for the thing to have exploded. So 48, okay. Right, so the station is physically intact. I'm wondering whether there's power to it. Is there power to the station? That one I'm thinking is 50-50. 43. Yes, so there is still power to the station. Okay, so at this point, it's not obvious why there's something wrong here. So now we would expect, now this is something that we wouldn't necessarily be directly aware of because we're not part of the crew or anything. So I'm wondering, I mean, I assume we're going to be able to dock normally, even though the amount of traffic is weirdly low right now. So I guess that would be a question. I think it's very likely that we'll be able to um, dock normally. It's a 41, so yeah, so we can in fact dock normally. So everything on the approach, things are weirdly quiet in terms of not that there not being very much traffic, but on the other hand, like functionality seems to be okay. There's power there. I'm wondering, like, does the station though, like, is it visibly apparent that there's something weird here? I'm imagining like, like a lot of the rooms don't have lights on. I like that kind of thing. Is there something visibly apparent that shows there's something strange? I'm gonna say 50-50. 17. So that'd be a yes. Okay, that's it. So then the question is, what is it that's apparent? Well, okay, here we can use our inspiration here. That is that we could have some kind of scan makes it apparent. Okay. Okay, so the scan makes it apparent that there are issues here on the station. I think that things are still functional, but uh, hmm. Oh, okay. We do have a communicator here, so I'm going to say that we can kind of use the communicator to tune into some of I guess, kind of the public stations that would be something that would be accessible to just anybody that happens to have the communication technology available to them. Right, so Meese uses his communicator, tunes in, and what does he discover? Well, I'd say based on this scan, hmm, I'm trying to think about disgraced, disgraced. I can't make that fit. Um, yeah, I feel like there's probably some kind of like warning going out or something like that. It might be that flights, like when they get here, are just kind of being grounded. That's a possibility. And then if that news has gotten out to neighboring sectors, then we wouldn't necessarily see many people go here. And it's a bypassable. Let me see if I can find where to put my star chart. Here it is. I mean, it might be difficult to bypass, but if you have like a ship that can do a jump of two, then you could go from Theseus to Earth without a problem. Uh, and there's not normally a lot of traffic that way because it tends to go through Piathos instead. It is very much a hub as far as that goes. but at the same time, would be possible. Like Piathos is mostly there to connect kind of what I think of as the southern element of the subsector with the northern element. Now, the northern element, there are quite a few connections up there anyway, so I think that area is going to be pretty well fine. This area less fine in terms of its connectedness if we lose Piathos. Okay, so so that's where we are. So we made it there. There's weird stuff going on in terms of things don't feel right. Things just don't feel right. I think that's it. So I'm going to say that we do manage to dock. Everything docks fine. And then we get off. So the first thing is now normally you would encounter a like some kind of law enforcement presence here when you first arrive on the planet if it's a relatively high law level. This one has a law level of, I believe it's 13, if I recall correctly. Let me double check that. Check my notes here. Piathos. The law level would be the last letter here before the dash. So it's a C. C is equivalent to 13. Right, so 13, then you'd roll two dice, total it up. If it's under 13, which of course it's obviously going to be because 12 is as high as it can go, then you have an encounter with law enforcement. Okay, so it's 9 here. Now the thing that you would normally have with this type of situation is first approach to a planet, right? You would end up with a check here. That's all it would be. So they're just kind of checking papers, that kind of thing. Right. So we get off. They check our papers. Now we know that Mese is going to be fine as far as papers goes. He worked for the Scouts. It's a relatively respectable organization. You would expect that they would be fine. Uh, Mara, though, who is traveling with him, might run into problems because she's a drifter. So the question is, does she actually have like valid travel papers that would be accepted on Piathos? I'm going to say it's very likely because otherwise I don't think she would have come here. I mean, it's the capital. We know the way that it's going to work, right? Nobody's going to be shocked. Oh, well, you mean I need papers? Um, Especially because she's a fairly um, accomplished or experienced. She's a fairly experienced drifter. 69. Well, you need to be 75 or less for her to have papers. She has them, so I'm going to say that that doesn't cause any problems. There may be, in fact, PCs running into trouble here, but that's not the trouble. Right, so we do get off, and so I'm thinking like this upper part of the station here. Um, it's not totally abandoned. There are people around, but I'm kind of imagining of times that say I have been flying somewhere and I fly either into or out of a um, an airport at night, right? So this has happened to me before, where say I had an early morning flight, say out of Atlanta. I've done that a couple times, and I thought, well, rather than trying to like get up at 3 in the morning so that I can get to um, the airport on time, I'm just going to go and just try to sleep in the airport a little bit with whatever sleep I can get. Right, so that kind of thing, and so there are people around, but it's not nearly as busy. The energy is wrong, as far as that goes. That's what I'm imagining this is kind of like. There are people around, but it's very clear that there are fewer than half as many people as you would expect, uh, based on just like the construction of the place. That it's like shops, most of them are not open, that kind of thing. That's what I'm imagining right here. So things are definitely weird. So I'm going to say that we're going to try to get some kind of information about what is happening. So the question then would be, can we get this information? So we're looking, say, news sources, that kind of thing, just publicly available information. We're not really interrogating anybody or anything like that. So the question is, right, is there some kind of like news broadcast, something we can tune into? Effectively, is there a news source that we can tune into that might get us some information about this AI that we are here to try to help deal with? So I'm going to go ahead and roll that. I think it's very likely. Yeah, I'm going to say it's very likely at this point, just given the time that has passed. Okay. And I get a 98. 98, so there's nothing. And that in itself is kind of weird, right? So we go searching for information about this AI program that has gone funny, right? And we can't find anything. Can't find anything, and I think we can't find anything to a suspicious degree, is what I'm thinking, right? So let's see. Can we put that together? That this is actually like weirdly suspicious, right? So okay, oh, this intelligence is what I'm thinking I'm gonna have to roll here. Problem is, his intelligence isn't that great, right? So if he rolls an 8 or higher, then he knows this is weird. There was a 5. Okay, so as far as we know, yeah, looks like I mean things feel kind of empty, but it's not obviously weird that we can't find any information about this rogue AI that's apparently supposed to be causing problems. We just don't have any evidence of that. All right. So, next thing we need to do, I think it makes sense for us to try to make some kind of contact with the scouts. Now, I would note that when you check here, back up into our map, right, there is no scout station right here on Piathos. Right, so now it does make sense though that there would be some kind of message here, right, left for us. So I think we're going to try to locate that message. So is there a message available for Mies now that he is here? This seems extremely likely. 87, so it's a good thing it's extremely likely or it wouldn't have happened. Right. So yes, we do actually manage to get some information from the scouts. The question is, what is the content of that information? So I'm still looking at my inspirations here, right? So opposition would be organized crime, right? Or societal pressure, custom as being in opposition. Thing being a newborn and PD disgraced. Here's what I'm thinking. I'm starting to put this all together, and that is that the planet is more or less in denial about this AI. So it's causing problems, but it's one of those things where kind of polite society has decided the way we're going to handle this is just to pretend that it doesn't exist. I think that is what this is all kind of coming together for me, right? And that would also explain why it is that, for example, we know that from the setup of the entire scenario that the the homeless, it's kind of the underclass, is aware of these problems, and were some of the first people to become aware of it, but nobody really wanted to listen to them about it either, right? So I think this all makes sense to me now, right? So we have the AI is causing problems. We don't know exactly what those problems are at this point. Symptom, though, it seems like we're not seeing a lot of traffic, and that's weird. Okay. But nobody wants to talk about it, and that includes, apparently news sources not talking about it. So that's the situation we're in right now. So I would really like us to get to the point where we are in scene, not scene, we're in Act Two. So let's see what it takes for us to get to Act Two. Right, so during Act Two, right, this is before the heroes can get to the ending and face the ultimate villain or obstacle and resolve the story for good. We have to go through a series of smaller challenges. Only by defeating the lesser obstacles can the heroes get to the ending of the story. Okay. So I'm thinking, so we come to the end of Act 1, we figure out what we need to do to save the day. Well, I think what we are learning is that what really needs to happen, at least one of the first steps, Mies is not the right person for dealing with the computer side of things. He has a tiny bit of electronics experience. He's mostly just a pilot. Uh, but what he does have as a benefit is that he's an outsider, as is Mara. And that may make them more willing, right, to go against what is apparently an extremely conformist society and try to point out that this is a problem that needs to be solved. So I think the big thing that they need to do here in dealing with this issue is actually convince the people that there is an issue, that it needs to be talked about, that it needs to be resolved. So I think that is really kind of where we're heading at this point. So that's the obstacle here is overcoming the societal pressures so they can deal with right, this newborn, aha, there it is, AI which has apparently just disgraced the capital. Nice, nice, right? To the point where nobody wants to visit here. So I think that is the situation we are in right now. And I think that is a good place, right, for us to end Act One. Next time, picking up with Act Two, as Mies and Mara try to figure out exactly how they're going to convince people to acknowledge this problem, so the right people can start working on it and coming up with a solution. So, I think that that's a good place. Um, so, I'm going to call it. This is Profi at Profi Plays, signing off.